Guys, listen up. As you get older, the best way to continue to look young, exuberant, and vibrant is to continue to take care of your skin. That's why I'm excited to have Teej Hanley as a sponsor of today's video. You heard me talk about them before, and you're going to continue to hear me talk about them because I believe in their products and the positive impact that they have on every man's life. Teej Hanley makes taking care of your skin so easy. They provide you with all the products you need and nothing that you don't. Every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. Lapeef family, I must admit, skincare wasn't always something I always focused on, but since I started using this system, I've seen improvements in the way my skin look and feels. And you don't have to take my word for it. They have over 5,000 five-star reviews on their website from satisfied customers from around the world. I recommend you start with the level 1 system, which comes with all the basics: a daily face wash, an exfoliating scrub, an AM moisturizer, and a PM moisturizer. In addition to amazing skin, members of Teej Hanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off retail price, the ability to customize your box, pause or cancel at any time, and free US shipping. And because Teej Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers a great deal. Just click that first link in the description and you'll get 30% off your first box plus the free gift. Seriously, that's an amazing deal. Even though it's too early, as I often say, it's never too late. Click that link and get started today. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Lapeef-ING Sunday. Let me go ahead and introduce the panel. We got Sham Monet, Miss Taken, JS Story to Tell, Luis, Balance, Golden Court, Hink in the Basement, and me myself on Lapeef JI. How you guys doing, family? How you doing?
Doing good. What's going on with y'all?
Doing
Happy
well.
Sunday.
No
It's all good,
complaints.
big bro. It's all good.
No complaints. How's my sound, everyone? It's good.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay, I got this mobile setup, so we don't have that music and all the extra stuff that goes on. But we're gonna go ahead and keep the show moving. I appreciate you guys joining us on this midday Sunday. Let's just make sure we mute in between. Um, let me see what we got in the chat. Greatness to work. Green, this is all Green Gang. I like to acknowledge the people that support the platform in that way. Ed Hill, Mr. Renegade. He in the basement is in the chat. He's a member. Salute to you, sir. Thank you for that. Shout out to everyone that's not a member. If you want to become a member, that link is pinned to the top of the chat. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. This is going to be a phenomenal show. You guys seen the title, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who hasn't seen the title? Or are you guys just saying because everybody else said?
I'm saying because everybody else said.
Okay, well, at least she was being honest, man. At least she's been honest. She's showing some sign. You have integrity, Jay. You have integrity. You have integrity. What's going on, Ash? I see you in the chat as well. Say good Sunday. Salute to you, sir. Well, today's show is the power of integrity. And before we get the show started, I kind of want to go around the room and ask people if they know what integrity is and when was the first time you heard the word. Do you truly know what it is? Is it something that you exhibit? You don't have to tell yourself, maybe you don't, but let's just have an open, honest conversation about integrity. I'll go around. I'll start with Sham Monet since she's eager to go first. Go ahead, Sham. What you got going on back there?
Layla, look, a little person in my face. Go to somebody else. Let me get her.
I'll hop in. I mean, I think integrity is what you're capable of doing when nobody's watching, or if you'll attempt to get away with stuff when the eyes aren't on you, what you do behind closed doors, if you maintain the same morals and ethics behind closed doors as you do in public. That's how I understood it.
I was going to say, I think integrity is the foundation of your character. So, and along with Jay, like those consistent behaviors that show that you can be like trustworthy, accountable, all of those things that we kind of discuss, you know, in some of these chats that we have. So that's what I think integrity is.
Okay. All right, Luis, I'll come back to
Yeah,
you.
no, I like that. One of the things about integrity that comes up in terms of the story, my father had always said, your integrity will carry you uh, all throughout your life and how you carry it on your sleeve and how people perceive you. And it's very important that you hold yourself with strong morals and integrity, because once your integrity is compromised, it's very difficult for people to instill trust in you. So always protect it.
Okay. I'm gonna come back to you, Balance, right before Shan.
Okay.
So, all right, go ahead, Golden Court. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like what a lot of you guys are saying. Integrity is everything. Like Miss Taken was saying, it is the foundation of who you are, and without integrity, I feel like the person, I mean, who are you? You know what I mean? Like that, it's just such a valuable thing to have in today's society. Not a lot of people carry these traits, and unfortunately it's sad, but I think a lot of more people should, get back to the grounds of having morals and being a noble being, and really taking pride in those traits versus, adhering to what's going on in today's society. But I do believe that integrity is a huge thing, and a lot of people don't have that.
Okay. Hank in the basement.
Sure, everybody pretty much took what I was gonna say, but I guess as being a man, is just being on your square, being who you say you are. To me, that's what integrity is. The answer to the other part of it, I guess you said the last time, was, I guess, is when my coach challenged me to change my life, to do better. I'm getting scholarship opportunities, but I'm still kind of toting the line of acting up and not doing what I need to do as far as outside the team aspect, or the school, or in the streets, or whatever the case may be, and in the classroom at times. So that was probably the first time somebody really challenged about me about my integrity. So
Okay. Alex Stevens, what are your thoughts about that? I was asking people what is their definition of integrity and when did they first learn about it? Or maybe they don't, maybe they haven't learned about it, but when have you first heard of it, or are you familiar with it?
I think integrity has to do with your character and who you are and how you live. I say all the time, people have their own sense of morality because they do. It's subjective. It's different for everybody. So one thing that I may think you need to have like high integrity for another person, it doesn't exist to them. So I always say that we got to pair with people that have our same value system, because that's the only way we're really going to be successful. A lot of times we don't have the same values and we don't have the same integrity, but we still try to force that upon somebody else. And then we wonder why it doesn't work. It's never going to work if you don't share the same values and have the same character and morality. So don't try to change somebody. Just find somebody that's on your same page and wavelength, and you'll fare a lot better. So that's what I would say to that.
Shan Monet.
I would have to agree with everybody on the panel. I think, sums it up. It's your character, how you were raised. I mean, goodness gracious. Are you a trustworthy individual? Can I rely on you? And I just think that now, I think this is a great discussion, because now I feel like there's so many people in the world, they're just moving with the lack thereof. They do not have, they don't care. They treat people any kind of way. They're not trustworthy individuals. It is a hot mess out here. And then that's the problem with dating today. I don't know how many people are single on this panel, but integrity has a lot to do with why relationships fail. today. I was gonna say.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and speak on it. I think this is a very important topic because I'm just gonna be honest and transparent. I heard the word maybe one time growing up, and it was from one of my guys, and we was having a conversation in regards to women, and he mentioned that integrity was everything. I didn't know what integrity was, to be honest. I just heard it. I kind of put the context clues together. I thought it had something to do with lying, but apparently it seems to be that it's isn't just about relationships with women. It's just who you are as an individual. And from my understanding, what I've learned so far and what I've been listening to and reading is that it goes for men and women. I don't think it's just one sex. It's for everyone. I learned it at a later age. And as I look at these panels and different people, and including myself, I think that a lot of people do lack integrity. I'm still learning. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm perfect, right? But as I began to absorb and get all this information, it's important. It's everything. And if you have no integrity, you look small in this world. You look small to people around you. And having integrity says a lot about who you are as a person. And so I just wanted to do a deep dive. The reference that I'm going to use, and I will post it in the chat, well, actually in the description, is from Miles Monroe. You guys heard of Miles Monroe? No? None of you? So Miles Monroe, OBE, was a Bohemian evangelist and ordained minister and avid professor of the kingdom of God, author, speaker, and leadership consultant who founded and led the Bahamas Faith Ministries International and Miles Monroe International. So the first time I had heard about this guy was actually through Kelly's. And Kelly's father was a pastor prophet, and he looked up to, he respected this man, Miles Monroe. And when I looked up the word integrity on YouTube, it just so happened that I was listening to something that he was saying, and come to find out we had conversations later, and this is the same guy. So it must have been, I guess, meant for me to do this. And I woke up this morning still not knowing the topic, and then it just came to me like we need to talk about integrity, because I think that's what lacks within these YouTube streets. Even myself, again, I'm still learning. I'm not perfect, and I think none of us on this panel is perfect, but I think it is important for us as adults to get with the program and to be able to be an example for our kids, men and women, because integrity is important. So what we're going to do this show is I'm going to play a series of sound bites.
Okay, I found this on the web for a series of. Check it out.
You guys didn't hear that, did you? From Siri? Okay. Don't know why she keep doing that. She coming all over the place. I think that's one of the downfalls about Siri is he just pops up.
Yeah, see, I ain't with that. I ain't got work about that with Android.
but yeah, so I'm gonna play some sound bites. I'm not gonna say the S word because she's gonna pick it up, of course. But we're gonna play some sound bites. I broke it up. So what I want you guys to do is just to pay attention to what's being said. There's no video, so you're not going to be able to watch it. So stay off your phones. Just actually engage. I'm not going to go around to everybody. If you have something to add, then just chime in, because I know it is a panel. You may not have something to add to that particular thing, so I'm not going to force you to. But I just want to see where you try to gauge where you guys' knowledge is about integrity. You guys gave the definitions as far as what you thought it was and gave some examples, and just see if it aligns. And then towards the end, we'll break it up and see if it aligns, if we learn something, and see if we can just have some discussions that may motivate somebody in the chat, or that's not even in the chat, that's watching. Sounds fair? Okay. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's a little different format today, but I do think integrity is important. So we are going to dive into it. And hopefully this information that I'm about to play, and also the perspectives from the panel, will give you some value. Here we go.
Different person on Monday that you are on Tuesday. You're not a different person in the night at 2 a.m. than you are in the pulpit on Sunday morning. You are one. You are not multi-personality. When the Bible says be holy, it's telling you be one. Stop being a hypocrite. It's character. That's why a person with character does not live on what's popular. They live on what is principle. And this is why it's very difficult for politicians to have character, because politics is based on popularity, which means you will literally sacrifice your principles to protect your popularity, which cancels your character, which means you cannot be trusted. There are preachers who are politicians. They would sell their principles for a pot of porridge. No character. You know, people say power corrupts. I used to believe that. That's not true. Power does not corrupt. Power simply reveals corruption. You are already defective. You finally got a chance to show it. Power is pure.
All right, that was the first sound bite. And I think Balance brought up character, and maybe somebody else has, because character and integrity seem like they go hand in hand. But what are you guys' thoughts just about that? Don't go over into boil into something else, because we're going to play a lot more sound bites. But what are you guys' thoughts about that?
I think you hear that a lot, like what he was saying, that power is not corrupt. Power reveals corruption. I think that point was big, because most of the time you hear that about money. You hear about money revealing a person's true character, who they really are. You know, I never honestly thought about that in terms of power. You know, I've kind of seen people have power and become one way, but maybe they were always that way. I never thought about power in that light.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, you know, that's a really good, interesting point, Jay. You know, I've always segmented this way. You know, money doesn't change people; it only enhances what you already are. So if you're a piece of shit, you're gonna even be a piece of shit with money or power. So it just amplifies everything around you. And unfortunately, what happens is that a lot of people don't really do that necessary work before they have that power. That's why there's that famous saying, with great power comes with great responsibility. And unfortunately, in today's society, we've kind of have pillared that responsibility on our leaders, whether it's in the church, whether it's in the political sector, or even within our community, of individuals who have yet, you know, shown receipts along the way to show integrity and character, building up to that momentum, as opposed to adhering to the popularity.
Well, I know I was going to say, it's kind of funny. He was talking about integrity and politicians at the same time, and how most of them try to run off their integrity. And so it's kind of funny he's saying that.
One of the things I picked up, which is what I was thinking, is that he kind of hit on it, is that I think integrity is the opposite of hypocrisy. And I think a lot of times we are, moving in that, that balance of saying that you have integrity, but, your actions don't necessarily reflect the integrity. And so then that's when it becomes hypocrisy. Like, we can judge others and hold them to a certain standard of what we want them to behave, but then we don't necessarily reflect that same behavior that we impart on others. So that was kind of something that I picked up when he said the hypocrisy part.
This made me think about a story. A true story that happened to me with my friends in high school. We ended up going to the mall together. We went to Macy's, and I go to Macy's all the time, so I'm used to buying my things. What I did not know is that they were stealing. So we get to the store and they start stuffing all these clothes into their bags, and I had no idea what was going on. I was oblivious to it all. So the security catches us and they start running, just running and bolting. And I'm just like standing there, like I didn't even know they was about to steal. So after they got away, and eventually I started running too, because I'm like, I didn't steal, but I'm not going to get caught either. So we all ended up getting away. But after that, I'm like, I'm not y'all friends anymore. Like, I didn't know this is how y'all live. Like, I can't be around y'all. And we a lot of times fail to realize most of the time people get in trouble is because of their friends. It's because of who they're around, who they spend their time with. Your friends get you shot, locked up. All types of stuff happens when you have the wrong people around you that have no morality, no character. So I think it's so important who you're around because it shapes and develops who you are, regardless on if you think it's true or not. It does develop who you are, the people you spend your time around. So I think that's a very important aspect that we leave out too. It's not only that you have to have integrity, but the people you're around, they need to have it as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I live in a city where, clubbing and bar hopping is a very popular thing here. And I see so many, young girls are out here literally risking morals and, all, just for a $20 tip and, for a click on Instagram. And it's just so sad because it's like, who's going to, take you serious? You know what I mean? What type of attention are you attracting? And I don't think, women or men, whomever, think about those things, like the things that you're risking, character wise, wise when you're doing those certain things, you know what I mean? So I think that it's just really sad seeing those, women out here exposing themselves. And I know recently we've seen on social media, even celebrities are, setting these examples that younger women are looking up to and seeing them wearing, certain outfits, exposing their, body and stuff like that. So it's like integrity as a whole has just, we're missing it all over.
All right. Anybody else want to speak on that particular soundbite? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play this next one. If you guys haven't already, make sure to like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I am playing sound clips from Miles Monroe. I see we have some people in the chat that doesn't subscribe to the Bible. I understand, that's respect, but this is what I'm using to give some insight on what we're discussing today. So let's go ahead and keep it pushing.
All of man distorted the image of God. What is image? Character. So man became a defective character. And the result of it is that his self-worth fell. Man didn't know how much he was worth anymore. So ever since that, man has been hiring, read my lips, image consultants. Why would you hire an image consultant? Because you ain't got none. You ain't got no image. You lost it. If you know who you are and you decide to be who you are, you don't need nobody to create another person. An image consultant is someone you pay to create a person that doesn't exist. Politicians hire image consultants. Why? They ain't got no image. So they pay people to tell lies. Movie stars, entertainers, they hire image consultants. Why? They have no image. So they sell you an image that don't exist and you buy it. And then when the real person shows up, most people ask for forgiveness simply because they got caught. Character, therefore, is simply that which is unchanging. Write it down. My question is, how often do you change? Who are you? Are you the same person all the time? Are you consistent? Are you predictable? Leaders must have character. Why? Write this down. People will not follow you if they don't trust you. So character attracts loyalty.
I thought that was a good one. It said people will not follow you if they don't trust you. And I never thought about image consultants when it comes to the people in Hollywood. Because if you are who you are, then you would need an image consultant. I thought that was pretty deep. But let's go ahead and discuss that. What are you guys' thoughts about that particular soundbite?
I mean, so they shouldn't. I mean, if somebody can't trust you, they shouldn't follow you. You just going out there blind and just following anybody. And unfortunately, us as our community, we do that type shit. They can say something nice, but they have no integrity, no character about them. But they have followed them just because they're famous, or how much money they make, or who they are, or what circles they run in. And that's just unfortunate for our people that we do that shit.
Yeah, one of the things that I would say real quickly is that You need to develop personality. You need to be likable. You need to be impressionable. You need to be able to read a room. You need to be able to look people in the eye, shake their hand, and have valuable conversations. And in that, you will create an identity. You know who you are. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to stealing identities or characters from other people that might be likable at the moment. You know, like it's a trend, and people who shift their character and shift their identity always align with some sort of trend at the moment. That's why they would need a image consultant to align them with whatever the status quo wants you to adhere to. But in reality, as long as you stay who you are every single way and show receipts along the way, people will identify with you and people will quickly pick up that you are authentic. And unfortunately, what has happened, there is a lot of unauthentic people because a lot of people are trying to keep up with the Joneses.
It was something that, like Louis just said, that made me think a little like, I think some attributes of what he was saying was related to personality, like being, being able to speak to people, show and I think that's a little bit different than like your character and integrity, because you have some people like kind of what the voice clip was saying in regards to, you need to hire the image consultant to kind of build this, facade of a personality or character, because that's really not who you are. But your character should reflect who you really are. So it shouldn't be a situation where you would need an image consultant per se in order to develop this facade of a person of who you are. I definitely, like, one of the things I just put in the back chat is that I never thought about that, the whole image consultant aspect of it. But when you don't know who you are, you leave the door open to having someone else define who you are, or what a lot of us do in terms of, especially, when you're younger, but, even older people, where they're looking at social media or watching TV to get a sense of an idea of who they are or who they want to be, as opposed to truly knowing that for themselves and developing that character through experiences and things like that. And I think that's where a lot of us go wrong when we're younger. Like, you'll hear us on the show a lot of times talking about, well, in your 20s, that's the time that you get to, you should explore and learn who you are, which I think is important to do that because you can't show up fully in a relationship without knowing who you are.
All right. Anybody else? There's no pressure. I mean, we got some more to go through. So if you have nothing to add on to it, it's understandable. Go ahead.
I want to throw a caveat in there, but I want Jay, go ahead, because I know you haven't spoken.
No, I've heard a saying go around or come back up like lately, as far as if you allow a person to feed you, then you give them the ability to starve you, or if you rely on them to feed you. I've heard that. And I mean, I look at that the same way as like somebody creating an image, essentially they're creating who you are, who you stand for. So if you allow somebody to create that for you, then when you push against it, they can destroy what they've built, because they know how to, so that's how I look at it. I mean, if you, specifically with politicians, you notice a lot of them who probably have crisis of faith, or they be conflicting as far as their integrity goes, and they'll kind of push against the grain. And you notice all these news stories come out about them, all these secrets that were buried come out about them. That's because they pushed against this image that was built for them that wasn't reality. And now you're seeing the real person try to fight against that,
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to add a caveat real quick, because I know we're talking about examples in the vacuum, and a lot of us could really relate. But I also want to kind of address and highlight for those who unfortunately don't have the best of examples growing up, who don't have the best of a positive masculine role model, right? So where does your integrity lie in a household that doesn't have integrity? If you grew up around people, family members who don't have integrity in your entire young life, you were programmed to do and view things in a very negative light, right? And sort of those first 18 years are bad programming. And then I think it takes a lot of time after that as an adult to kind of do some self-discovery and figure out who you are, identify like your character and develop new morals, right? That takes time to unprogram all the bad programming that you received throughout your youth and adolescence. And along that way, you could kind of begin to kind of unravel and create a new identity for yourself and figure out what you stand for and what are your morals and boundaries.
That's a good point. It's a good point, Luis. Anybody else? All right.
I think. Sorry, I was listening though. I agree. I never even thought about that. That's a good point, Luis. So I think people may change depending on, you don't know what the circumstance was in the past. So maybe I think that it was Jay who said something about some things from the past might come up, but that you never know what that person was back in, and so maybe through correction, whether they found God or whatever, they start to build their character and become a little bit more honest. And I think that's a small percentage, because most people know right from wrong. You know when you're lying, when you're being distrustful. Those are just simple things that I think everybody, for the most part, we know. Okay. But I do want to say, as far as it comes to the principles, I think, because I missed the part about the guy, he was talking about principles and he was talking about politicians and everything that's done in the darkness does come to light, especially on this YouTube. Like, I hear so many people on this YouTube space talking about, oh, I'm this, and you should do this and this and this. And then you look at their life and they're doing the exact opposite. Like, what are we doing here? Why are you telling these people, leading these people astray, and you're not even walking that life? And so that's the problem I have with people, especially in the YouTube space. But when it comes to real life, even when it comes to meeting somebody, this is going off the topic. Sorry, I'm going random. With ghosting people, like who taught y'all to do? This whole. I'm sorry, I'm going through something.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
But the integrity. When I saw the topic, I was like, this integrity. People are just like, I just don't understand. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
YouTube and in real life.
Well, I was going to say those people in those families become like the black sheep of the family a lot of times, because they do choose a different route. They choose integrity and character, and then, they're no longer a part of that tribe. And you got to go make your own tribe. I think a lot of people are afraid of being by themselves. Sometimes the journey is you're going to be alone until you get to that next destination. And that's hard for a lot of people, because a lot of people are followers. They're used to being in a group. They don't know how to be alone. So they rather be with a group that they know is doing the wrong thing than walk alone. Because that journey alone is hard, but it's worth it. Like that, sometimes that's just the process. And once you go through it, you're a stronger, better person. And a lot of people are just not willing to take that journey. So, yeah.
Think about the music. Oh, sorry.
No, I thought Luis was about to say something.
I'll wait then.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Shamona.
Even when it comes to the music, think about who we listen to every day. Like, it could be a person living their life a totally different way, but then they get in the airways, they get a little bit of money, and they start talking all these things about, bitch, this, I live my life like this, and then they're sitting here leading all these people astray, and you don't even live that way. Like, I just feel like, I don't know. When I times have changed so much. It has nothing to do about my personal. It's just what I see in my classroom, just when I walk outside. I think that people have lost the morality of things. Like they just move in such a corrupt way. And I just think that it's just horrible, poor. It's just, I don't know.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and play the next clip. Make sure you pay attention, y'all, because I don't want y'all to miss something. So it's just only audio only. I will be dropping the actual source after this live stream. It'll be in the description. So just pay attention, you guys.
Character is a commitment to a set of values without compromise. What are values? Values are things you value. That's all. Not complicated. For example, if you value your marriage vow, you will never commit adultery. So when a person commits adultery, they don't value their marriage nor their marriage vows. See, your values will protect you. Secondly, character is the dedication to a set of standards without wavering. What are your standards that you've set for your life? My standards produce my character. I will never violate my standards. You got to say that every day. I do not tell lies. That's a standard. I do not steal. That includes stealing time from your job. Telling people you are sick when you are not sick. This is a lack of character. You are a thief. I wonder why you're smiling. Character is so subtle. There's no excuse in life for breaking your standards. I hear people say sometimes, honesty is my best policy. Now, whenever you tell me that, I do what Joseph did. Honesty should never be your best policy. Never. Because best policy means I have second best, third best, fourth best, fifth best. I can't trust you. You have no character. A person of character would say, honesty is my only policy. Thirdly, character is self-imposed discipline for the sake of moral convictions. That means a person of character doesn't need the police. They police themselves. A person of character locks themselves up in the prison of their own convictions and they throw away the key.
I don't know about y'all, but that kind of hit home. And so I'd say we all not perfect, but when it comes down to like the smallest things, like stealing time, even you taking a longer lunch, like this is integrity. Like, what are you standing for? So let's go ahead and talk about this. It's actually getting a little bit deep. I've seen some people nodding their heads in the back. Let's talk.
One of the things that stuck out to me. So I do believe that like what he was saying in terms of like integrity develops your character, right? The more you practice those standards, it begins to develop your character and just becomes a part of who you are. But one of the other things that stood out is that I do think that integrity and honesty are a little different. I believe you can have honesty. You can be honest, but not be a person of integrity. But if you are a person of integrity, you'll be honest. So I think you can have one without the other, meaning like, so you can have some people that are honest, like honest in words, but are not showing integrity through their actions. So and an example of that could be something like, actually we kind of hear it in this YouTube space a lot of times, and it can go both ways, but the example that just popped into my head has to do with men who they say, oh, well, I'm honest about the fact that, you know, I'm sleeping around. Like I tell the truth about that. So then later on, nobody will come back to me and say that they didn't know. But yes, you're honest, but are you moving with integrity? And I think those two things are different, because morally, ethically, is that behavior that you should be doing. Even though you can do it, doesn't mean that you should. And I think that's what integrity is.
Well, mistake, you say that, but it may not be a part of their religion. Their religious beliefs allow them to have multiple partners like that.
Sleeping around people or being with people, like actually having wives. Are you talking about just sleeping with people? Yeah. I don't know a religion like that.
They don't even recognize marriage, so they don't even have wives. You have some people like that.
That's an example that I gave, but there are other examples in which you can be honest, but not necessarily show integrity. Like I can be honest that, yeah, I go and I steal from Walmart. I'm honest about it, saying, oh, I'm a thief. I'm honest, but am I showing integrity? The answer will be no. So I think a lot of times we get those two things mixed up, thinking that because you're an honest person, then you have integrity. The thing is that your integrity has to match up. So a lot of times we're honest in our words, but may not necessarily be honest in our actions, or honest, with showing integrity with moral character. So that was just one example.
That was great, Mistaken.
Anybody else?
Yeah, motherfucker. That was great. That wasn't great. That was bullshit.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Because if we sat here and said, okay, she's moving the same way. If a woman goes out with you just because she's trying to get a meal or she's using you for your money, it's the same thing. She is not moving with integrity, period. So just because we talk about sex, how about switch it? When women do that to men, women manipulate men all the time. They're not being honest with them. Or they can be honest and say, hey, I'm not feeling you right now. But then he takes you out on a date and you're using this dude. Like, come on. It's still your moves. See, that's wrong.
Like, I don't know about you guys, but I do want to
go ahead.
But I do want to. I was gonna say I do want to hear from Hank because again, all perspectives are respected, and I think he raised a great point. Like, what if you don't? Like, what if you don't tie it back to a religion? Then how do you define what integrity looks like then? Or is it still considered like integrity? Are you still going against the grain, like Mistaken talked about? So that's kind of opening it up a little bit. You want to kind of elaborate on that, Hank? So people,
yeah, because 90% of y'all women has no integrity then. None at all. Ain't a bit of more integrity in your ass. Because most of them do that bullshit. But let me say this: if an individual has multiple relationships and he's honest enough front about them, what about him doesn't have integrity? We in the same boat. We all know this is what we are. This is what I do. This is what I have. So that shows lack of integrity because he was straight up honest. He told him, we're going to come together. She's over there. She's not going to be interference. You know how to see her. She won't be in your way. She won't affect none of the income that comes in the home. But it's just something, when I'm in the mood, I need to go over and slide through and get them cheeks. What's the lack of integrity? I don't know.
I didn't know if he was finished, but I definitely got a response.
All right, everybody, are you finished?
No, she go. Balance, go ahead. I mean, Mistake won't come back at me. That's cool. I can handle it.
I actually agree with you, Hank, because I keep saying on these panels that integrity and morality is subjective, which means it means different things to different people. You have to stop trying to put your morality on everybody else. Everybody does not have to believe what you believe. You're not God to tell somebody what's right and wrong. If to them that's okay and that's their belief system, that could be their belief system. And I say all the time, get with people that have the same what you believe. Get with people that believe what you believe. Stop trying to change people in their thought process. Who's to tell Hank that he's wrong? I'm not his God or his judge. He's not incorrect if that's his belief system. So I think what's wrong is that people always try to put their morality on everybody else. That's not what you should do. Nobody taught you to do that, even if you want to go off the Bible. But go ahead.
But does it make it wrong? You know what I mean? Like if we that's serious. That's a serious.
I agree because we can say that about stealing. We can say that about killing. We can say that about so many other things. Like, where's the point that it stops? Like,
yeah.
Aren't you in Atlanta?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. So the capital of the community. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about that? Do they lack integrity?
Well, Hank, this is the thing.
That's all I need to hear. If you say that, Mistaken, how do you feel?
That's what I'm about to say. I do somewhat agree with what Balance is saying in regards
to a politician. Mistaken.
No. I agree with what she's saying in terms of some people have a different standard, right? Or different way of living. It can be based on their culture, things like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be based on religion, right? It can be a cultural thing. But and I guess there are subcultures, because I think with subcultures, that's creating a different culture within the larger group because there's some aspects that you don't agree with. My thing is that if you're looking at it from a religious standpoint or a cultural standpoint, and when you measure up your actions with the overall aspect of what that culture or religious group say is right or wrong, if you're moving against that direction, then I don't think that you're moving with integrity in regards to that cultural group. And I know I gave that example as, just sleeping around, but just from my understanding and I don't know everything. I don't know about every culture. I don't know about every religion, but the ones that I do know about, that is not something that is in alignment with culture or religion. Now, polygamy, yes, but part of the polygamy aspect is that you're supposed to be married to these multiple women. And men are not moving in that direction. They're just having sex with multiple women. So that's where I say, like, the difference is you have to kind of align it with the larger group of what those basic standards are, because you have to have a baseline in order to, determine what's right or wrong.
Right. So we're saying that integrity isn't a one size fit all. Everybody have their own perspective on, what they believe is morally or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like, we can't tell anybody anything then, because she may believe that she can go out and wear a thong out in public. And I'm over here saying, well, put some clothes on. You know what I mean? So it's like, so we're saying that integrity isn't a one size fit all. It varies.
So that's why I said it has to be a baseline in which everybody is operating from. It has to be, because like even in having conversations now, if we defined integrity and everybody defined integrity very different, then we can't really understand the conversation, because we're looking from a whole bunch of different perspectives where we don't even have a baseline of agreement to. So I do think that there has to be an established baseline of what we say integrity is, and then move from that direction.
This is why I think a lot of people aren't living in reality, because in reality, there is no baseline. And even if there was one, who would be the one to make it? Not you guys. So I think it doesn't make sense to say that, to be honest. I mean, it sounds good in theory. It sounds good in a perfect world, but that's not the world we live in. And maybe we could say it should be like that, but we have to speak in reality in the world we live in today. In the world we live in today, it's what Hank said. This is the reality. Obviously, everybody doesn't think the same and believe the same and have the same faith or religion or morality. They do not. So for us to sit up here and say it should be that way, we could say that, but that's not how we're living.
And that's why we keep getting the results that we're getting, because of
that.
The way it used to be when people had morals, it was going a little better. But now, because there are no morals, nobody cares. Everybody's out here doing what they want to do. They don't care who they hurt in the process. They just do what they want to do, and it's just going down the drain.
And if you look at majority of, and I'm gonna just say major religions, because of course, again, like I say, I don't know everybody's religion, but even in those major religions, like when you like Buddhism, Christianity, there's a whole bunch of different levels in Christianities in terms of which sect you go to, being a Muslim, all of those things. There is a thread of commonality in terms of baseline in the way that you treat people, like that golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. There's a moral thread, a base, and that's what I'm saying. You have to have a baseline in which everybody is able to operate from. And even in having different religions, is that thread line, is that baseline that everybody's operating from.
But everybody never operates from the same baseline. The prisons are full with people that do not believe what you just said at all. Not even 1% of what you said. So that's what I mean. It sounds good in theory, but that's not people's reality. And I think the problem is we're speaking from this utopia world, and we want it to be that way, but that's not how it is. So it just sounds good. It sounds like a good conversation, but what I think works in this current reality is when I talk to young girls, I actually coach young girls, and I don't tell them, hey, don't be like Cardi B, because they don't want to hear that. That's not what works. What I do say is these are the pros and cons of doing this and going this direction. These are the pros and cons of doing this and going this direction. And everybody ultimately is going to make their own decision, period. And that's what this life is about, making your own decisions. Nobody's going to make them for you. But I can help and guide somebody by telling them the pros and cons of every outcome of the decisions that they choose for their life. Because in this reality, telling somebody, hey, that's wrong, they're just going to think you're judgmental and not listen to you anyway. We see that all the time. If you think about if you think about preachers' kids, right? A lot of times, you know what happens, like they want to rebel. They're like, I don't want to be in this religion at all. They become the biggest promiscuous women and men that we know. So I mean, it sounds good in theory. I'm not telling you, if you want to tell people this is the wrong and right way to live, tell me the results you get. But what I see works best with when I coach young girls, which a lot of people don't, is say, hey, you can do that if you want, but this is the outcome. This is what you're going to have if you go that direction. Do you really want this outcome? And let them make the decision for themselves.
Let me ask you this question. You brought up the idea of people in prison because they was moving from a different, level. But isn't that within itself that baseline? Because the baseline would be whatever they did to break the law to end them up in prison. So that baseline is the general understanding of this is what's going to be acceptable in this society. And you have to move accordingly. If you don't, then these are the negative consequences of that. So that baseline is established in terms of what is right and wrong when we're, talking about the prison system. So that is the baseline in which everybody is supposed to be operating from. So if a person makes an individualized decision to say, well, no, I don't want that to be my baseline, I'm going to do something else, then they end up with the consequences and the results of that, of going against what the established baseline is.
You're talking about laws. You're talking about the laws.
Well, that's because you said prison. So
yeah. And I'm not debating with you on that. We do have laws, and a lot of people break the laws. We see that too. But I'm talking about if somebody wants to live their life having 5 kids by 10 women, whatever. If that's the baseline of how they want to live, that's not a law. It's not illegal to live that way. You could do that if you want. It's not illegal to get drunk every night and kill your liver. I mean, they could do that if they want. So it's all about if they know the pros and cons and the outcome of doing these decisions to see if they want to continue on that path. For example, even me in high school, I was somebody that was like telling my friends that McDonald's was poison in high school. So they didn't want to hear that. Like, I was very odd in that sense. But I will say that even though that's how I was, people would say it doesn't take all that. It doesn't take all that. That's their opinion of me. It doesn't take all of that to be healthy. Okay, but then we could see the results 10 years later or 20 years later, and we could be like, you know what, maybe she has some good ideas. So I'm all about telling people the pros and cons, but I'm not going to tell somebody they're wrong for eating McDonald's. It's not against the law if they want to eat that, but I wouldn't eat that poison. That's just how I see it.
Yeah.
You're on mute, JR.
So one of the things that, I echo everybody's sentiment, it was really good. One of the things I would say is in this postmodern society, or what I like to call this postmodern society, we no longer have one single source of truth. Truth is relative. There's your truth, my truth, right? We've moved away from center ground. And in doing that, we've allotted more freedom. People have more freedom today, so they feel less inclined to align themselves in a singular source of truth, right? And I ask people, not only in the chat and in the panel, how do you hold yourself grounded with integrity? How do you check in with yourself, right? Because we set these boundaries, we set these rules, and we set our moral standard and our moral compass, but how do we check in with ourselves? Do you pray? Do you meditate? Do you go to counseling? Do you speak to certain men within your group or sisters? in your circle, right? How do you hold yourself accountable? How do you check in with yourself so you don't have a moment of weakness or temptation, right? Because, you know, none of us up here are perfect, just like JR had alluded to earlier. And sort of how do we as a society, or how do we as a community check in constantly with ourselves to make sure that we are holding ourselves to the principles and values that we say that we adhere to?
All right, let me go ahead and get into the next soundbite and we can continue the conversation. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We got 3 super chats. Marcus Evans said, so the 7 women that had babies with that Pookie boy that went viral last week, do they have integrity? Question mark. Nathan Theodore Francis $5 says, integrity is not exclusive to religion or morals. It also means the state of being whole and undivided. Marcus Evans again, $2 says, is it too late to have morals in today's time? Is it too late? I don't think it's too late. It's too late.
No, I think you just have to be aware of, you have to be willing and aware of, I mean, like you laughed, JR, when he was talking about stealing company time or whatever, you know what I mean? If you think about it, I don't never do shit at work. I don't never do shit at work. I'm sure everybody's heard that. Oh, just spending company time. I'm here spending company. Like, that's a movement. You literally have people that are filming them do nothing at work, and more people see it and more people see it, and it's a movement, you know. So as long as you have stuff like that, you have to have the opposite. You have to be aware that that's funny, but that's not reality. You'll get your ass fired, lose your pension, lose your income, you know, and shit could get really, really quick for you, you know, but it has to be an alternative to that.
Yeah. All right, let me go ahead. Hit the like button, family. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. This is a great conversation. I'm glad that we are able to have it and provide it for you guys. Here we go.
Character. Are you for sale? See, your future depends on your character, not your charisma. And most leaders, whether they are politicians, preachers, or parents, they try to live off their charisma. They try to live off their talent. They try to live off their gifts. Your gifts will never protect you. As a matter of fact, your gift will destroy you, because the only thing that can protect your gift and your talent is your character. This session is the most important session you ever sat in your life, because this is where you learn what protects your entire future, and it's your character. And you've never been taught this in your whole life. I know you haven't. Your seminary never had a class on this, and that's why preachers are falling like flies.
All right, so we starting to dive a little deeper into integrity. Who would like to speak up on this, what he just said?
I mean, character, like, how do we define character, or how do you know if you have a good character? I guess that's my question. How do you determine that? Is it what people decide your character is? And if you have a circle of people that are not being honest with you, are they really going to tell you, you know, how your character is, or whether you are a good character? Like, I guess that's the thing that always confuses me. Like, you hear people say, I'm a good woman or I'm a good man. Like, how is that determined? Who determines that? Who told you that? Why did they tell you that?
Well, I think that shows up in the form of consistency. You know, I think that shows up in the form of consistency. I think that shows up in the form of you being balanced and having congruency. And unfortunately, some people don't have a consistent basis. You know what I'm saying? Like he alluded to the talent. You know, everybody has a certain talent, but without hard work, that talent will only go so far. And sort of your consistency of your character, you showing up the way that you say that you're going to show up for your people, you having that integrity will always show up before your talent does. You know, so for me, I think it's the consistency in you standing on what you say in those principles.
Anybody else want to address Jay's question as far as how do you know you got character? What is it based off of?
Character is defined as the moral qualities distinctive to an individual. If you just go look at the definition, that's what character is defined as. So that means it's whatever you deem as moral to you. That's the definition. Not something I think, not something I made up. That's the definition. So maybe the way I see something as character, somebody else sees it differently. So what do you guys think character means?
It sounds like to me based off somebody else's opinion. That's what it sounds like.
Exactly, it is. Now, if we're talking about it from a religious standpoint, that's a different conversation. But are we?
Well, when it comes to like Miles Monroe, I think he's tying everything back to the Bible. So, I mean, that's where a lot of his speakings that he's doing is tied back into. So, if you're not tied back into something, then you're just living outside of what somebody else perceives as to be good character. I mean, even unless we can use Anton for an example, a lot of his talking points come from the Bible. And so that's why he uplifts marriages, and he always talk about he'd rather have good character over everything. So I guess someone would have to ask themselves, like, what is their moral compass? You know, like where do they derive their standards from? And that's to be determined. And Balance spoke about, okay, well, you can be who you want to be. And if I don't align with it, then I'm not going to attach myself to you. There will be nothing further than just a high and by type of relationship. Even when it comes to dating or who she decides to marry, they will have to align. So I think this is a great conversation. I don't think it's no right or wrong, but I just want to stimulate people's minds and see if maybe you can figure something out from this conversation. I don't know. I think everybody's making great points.
Yeah, let me ask something real quick. Would you attribute that the people within your circle, whether your church group or your friend group, will hold you to a different set of standards and morals, right, versus people in other spaces that you might be, whether it's business, whether it's, colleagues in a particular work sector, right? Do all those different people have a different view of you?
You're asking like us personally?
No, I'm just curious because like obviously we're just kind of honing it down onto one, but I'm curious, like if you had separate conversations with 5 people in different circles of interaction, right? How they will view your character or how they will view your integrity. I think a lot of them, based on how they orbit around you, might have a slightly different response.
They shouldn't, though.
They shouldn't. I agree
They
with that.
shouldn't. Go, Shan.
I was going to say something kind of based on what Valentin was saying, based on that, and I could be interpreting it differently, which I guess goes back to what I was kind of saying in terms of having a baseline so we can, have a productive conversation in general. So based on that definition of having like moral qualities, which are distinctive to that person, the way that I actually kind of looked at that is more along the lines of a distinguishing feature or characteristic. So when in the larger group of what is defined as, let's say, morality or integrity within the larger context of the group, how does that look for you and how would that be displayed based on you as an individual, your individual personality, things like that. So that was kind of what I looked at when it was saying an individual quality that's distinctive to you. So I still think within that group, you have a baseline, but then you as the individual, how that may be portrayed. Not necessarily that every individual has a different mindset of what morality is or what what we were talking about, what integrity is. I think it was more distinctive to your characteristics, your individualized characteristics. I could be wrong, but that was the way that I interpreted.
Yeah, then we're talking about what group do you belong to then? What is the larger group that you're speaking of?
Okay. What's going on, Miss Kelly? You there?
Hi, yeah.
I was going to say, I'm sorry, even within a gang, that gang have certain a code that they abide by, right? And if you are a part of that specific group and you go against that code, then you are violating what that baseline of expectation and standards are for that group. So I think that's what happens in general in a larger society.
All right. Go ahead, Miss Kelly. What you got on it?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm driving, so I apologize. So I was hearing some of the clips that you were playing, and I'm very familiar with Dr. Miles Monroe. He was he's one of the greatest teachers of all time. He's written so many books. He's had so many seminars, so many conferences. People from all over the world traveled to hear him speak before he passed away. So I respect his teachings. As far as integrity, I do think as a people group entirely, we've gotten away from a moral code, principles, standards. So I know people are saying it's your own personal, but I disagree with that. I think that there is a baseline that everyone should abide by. Do they? Absolutely not. But they should, and there should be a baseline. And I think no matter what religion, no matter what culture, what people group, I believe that everybody knows right from wrong, whether that is in your laws, your principles, your moral coding. I think when you go to do something inside you checks you and says, this is not right. Whether you push past that or not, that's a personal thing. But you know before you stab somebody, it's wrong. You know before you steal, it's wrong. You know before you go to commit adultery, it's wrong. If you choose to do it anyway, that's on you, and you're choosing to bypass it. But I think people know right from wrong in general. We do have a culture where right is deemed okay, where wrong is deemed okay now. But I think inside of you, no matter what you believe, you know when you're about to do something wrong.
Okay. Does anybody want to add to that or address it?
Well, again, I'm going to talk about what I talked about earlier about for all the residents of Atlanta.
Don't do that.
Is that wrong? Is that wrong? Because
First of all, everybody knows.
Hell no.
First of all,
Hell no.
everybody in Atlanta is not
85% of y'all live that lifestyle. Enjoy.
That's not true. That is absolutely not true.
Y'all lack integrity.
There is a lot.
Y'all lack morals. According to these definitions, what I'm hearing, y'all have neither one of them in there.
I do think that this is a generation that we do lack morals. Some people. I think they know what's right and wrong. They just don't care. And I personally think them like this. You can believe what you want to believe. When you pull somebody else into that madness, then that's when it becomes an issue. If you want to damage yourself, corrupt yourself, do that. But once you start putting somebody else into that and it affects their life, then that's a problem. So if you're sleeping around with people and it's affecting them, if you're stealing from somebody, it's affecting them. When it starts to affect other people, then that's an issue. We have good character. The character is character, but you have good character, you have bad character. So
having multiple wives is okay then. I'm trying to figure this out.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
I didn't hear your question, Pink. I'm sorry.
Well, my question was, so what's the problem with somebody having multiple wives or multiple girlfriends or whatever the relationship status is?
So I guess you have to go back to where it stems from. Are you having sex with people for your own self gratification? Because the Bible does want you to be chaste, and I know everyone doesn't believe in the Bible. And you can go on about that for days, I'm sure, but that is what I believe. So I do base a lot of things on the Bible. So from where my perspective, no, you're not supposed to have sex outside of marriage. You're not supposed to have sex with someone that is married. So it's called fornication. It's called adultery. And these are things, morals and principles that I live by and I abide by, because that's where my foundation, my grounding is. So those are my morals and principles. What other people's are, whether you decide to do it or not, that is your choice. However, we are now living with the repercussions of everyone doing it wrong. You talk about baby mamas, you talk about baby daddies, Pookies and Ray Rays. That is because they're living outside of a principle that God set up from the very beginning. If people were getting married before they had sex, we wouldn't have this baby mama crisis. Because there's a principle that people aren't abiding by.
Well, look here, the Bible don't recognize marriage until you have sex. The Bible doesn't recognize marriage until you have sex. So every time I have sex, I'm married.
That's how you.
So how we can? What are we talking about?
Incorrect. You're incorrect.
No, it's not.
That's how you consummate. That's how you consummate a marriage. You have to.
Not everybody goes through the ceremony. Not everybody went through the ceremony, Kelly. They consummate by the act.
Yeah, one at a time, y'all. One at a time.
So Hank, if that's the case, how many wives do you have? Because that's not the law now. And you are.
On my body count says I have a lot of wives. But
are you taking care of all of them?
Hell no. Them heifers ain't on my roster no more.
Right. So, but you're supposed to abide by the laws of the land.
So you're not showing integrity, Hank.
Because I don't take care of the heifers. But I'm showing integrity to my one. That's all I need to show character.
But Hank, also too, once upon a time, we used to marry. We used to marry until death do us part. Today we marry until love dies. We used to marry to have sex for the first time. Today we marry to stop having sex with everybody else. So we've done a complete 180 from what we were supposed to do or what we were told to do, right?
That's exactly right, Lewis. That's right.
So again, I said 90% of the world have no integrity and no morals. I said it early in the stream, and it still holds true.
I agree. I think it's more along the lines of trying to work towards that direction. Nobody is going to be perfect. Everybody is going to make mistakes. Everybody is going to do something. Everybody's going to do something wrong that goes against, like I said, the bigger group or even your own personal code of conduct. Everybody, I mean, as a human, you are going to make mistakes. But I think what everyone should be doing is striving towards making sure that they develop good character, making sure that they have integrity, that they have standards of a code of conduct and virtue, things of that nature. But does that mean you're always going to hit the mark all of the time? Absolutely not. Sometimes you have to do wrong in order to learn to do right. You know what I'm saying? That's how you gain that experience. That's how you begin to shape your character. That's how you begin to shape what your standards are going to be. So when we go from, I think somebody had asked about, well, what if you don't know what integrity is or more? I think it's based on the results that you're getting. If you're okay with the results in your life that you are getting, like if you're okay with having multiple baby mamas or multiple baby daddies, if you are okay with them not taking care of their kids, if you're okay with all of these things, then by your own definition, you live in life till its fullest and, the consequences don't apply to you. I guess you're good. But in a larger, like I said, the larger group, if you don't like the results that you're getting, then more than likely you need to make the adjustments in order to get the results that you want. So if you don't know what it is, I think life teaches you certain things to end up saying, well, I don't like this. I want different results. What changes do I need to make in order to get different results?
Yeah, but what is that without the lesson?
Mistaken and hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, earlier I was told I was wrong by mistaken and Shantae. That's why I said no. When you said Kelly, no, I said no, that's not true. Early in the show, I was told I was wrong.
Wrong about what specifically? I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, hey, no, for real. Wrong about what?
Hold on,
You
y'all.
agree with your morals.
Hold on, y'all. Hold on. We gotta do one at a time, y'all, because everybody was asking questions.
I actually don't disagree with Hank. I agree with him. I do believe that the world is corrupt and there aren't a lot of people that live by morals and have good character anymore. Do they know right from wrong? I do think they do, but I don't think they live by it anymore. And I think instead of what like Mistaken said, making mistakes. I know everyone does make mistakes, but I think people nowadays, they want to make excuses for their mistakes instead of learning from them. Like, for example, when you have a child outside of marriage, why does it happen a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth time? Why didn't you learn from the first time? If that was a mistake, okay, this was wrong. I see where my life is going. I don't want this anymore. How can I do better? What can I do differently? I need to get married before I have my next child. Why is there a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth? So instead of being like, oh yeah, it's okay, the world accepts it now. Now it's a culture where, yeah, since everyone's so cool with it, I'm just gonna keep doing it. Versus like, this was wrong, I need to do it right. So it's not a learning period anymore. It's an excuse period, and that continues.
Exactly, and I think we've enabled it because I mean, at every milestone there is enabling, and then there's also a parachute where we don't no longer have shame, right? We have, well, they made a mistake 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, but we shouldn't judge, right? There isn't any cause for correction. And I think as a society, we have really gotten soft. And I think we have really gotten to a point where we no longer have those harsh conversations. And a lot of people can't really take that harsh criticism about their mistakes and taking accountability. Because I'm all for a choice, but I'm not for you being relieved of the consequences that align with the choices that you make.
Moving. Hold on, I'm gonna go ahead and keep it moving real quick. I'm gonna go to the people that's been quiet, like Jay, Balance, and Golden Court, next before anybody else go. So here we go. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, fam.
I think about it. Character is really what I call a constant effort to integrate your words, your deeds, and your actions as one. The word integrate means to become one. This is very important. So character is when your words, your deeds, and your actions are one. You are not schizophrenic. A person without character will say one thing, do another, and promise something else. So you never know who you're talking to when you're talking to them. No character.
All right, that was the next sound bite. Go ahead, Jay, and then we'll go to Balance and Golden Court, and then everybody else can chime in.
I mean, I think I've made that point on this panel a few times in regards to balance. You know, you're spiritually, physically, mentally, everything has to be aligned. That's kind of what we're chasing, you know, because I can want to do 1,000 things, but if my health is not permitting me to do these things, you know, mentally, I think of 1,000 things. I'm always thinking, but health wise, if I'm not up to par, there's no way I'm going to be executing a bunch of these things. You know, we can all want to be great, but if we don't have at least close or at least above satisfactory in all of those, you know, areas, there's no way that you're going to accomplish everything. You know, you can literally wake up the next day and feel the opposite of what you know, maybe promised to people in your life that you wanted to do or were going to do. And you, like you said, schizophrenic. That is the action. That's how it looks to one person, because one day you were saying that you were going to do all of these things, and then the next day you just don't feel up to it. You know, so you have to have things in place to where everything is balanced. And I think that's what we're all chasing in life. I think those each individual things being taught to us and being executed and showing us how to get there, that's where the real work is. That's where the real help is, because a lot of us don't have that harmony.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Balance.
I agree with you, Jay, and I'll just add to your point to say that everybody has different standards in how they live. For example, I would never have a child out of wedlock. A lot of people do. I'm not going to judge them. I'm not going to say they're wrong. That's how they chose to live. That's their morality. That's on them. I would never do it. That's my standard of life. I don't eat meat. My standard of life is it ain't for me. You know what I mean? I go to the gym weekly. That's my standard of life. So my standards may be higher than a lot of other people, but I'm not going to beat it over their head. I'm not going to tell them they're wrong because they want to live a different way of life. And it's not against the law. You know what I mean? But it's just different levels to things. And at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't align with me, they're not wrong. They're just not in my circle, honestly. Not closely. But I don't judge. So my point is just I think people want to judge so bad. They want to judge other people's lifestyles and how they live and call them wrong and throw a morality like book at them. And that doesn't work when it comes to trying to help build up society. There's a lot of people I coach that do things I would never do, ever. ever. You couldn't pay me to do a lot of things of the stories I heard. But I think it's hard to help somebody if you're judging them and feeling like you're morally superior to them. You can't really help somebody if you're judging them at the same time. And I think that's where a lot of people are missing the point of what I'm trying to say, because I'm not here to tell somebody they're right or wrong in that aspect, because you can't help somebody and condemn them at the same time. It doesn't work. I don't know if you guys ever tried it. It doesn't work. So sometimes you, in order to help people, you got to meet them where they are. You're not condoning what they do, but you show them different options. That's all I'm saying.
I have a question, just real quick, and this just a question based on what she was saying. Is to anybody in the group. Do you think that the person who has done the behavior versus the person who is saying that the behavior is wrong, do you think you as an individual automatically feel like they're judging you because you are the one that did wrong? You understand what I'm saying? Because sometimes correction can feel like judgment. And so then when we keep saying that we are going to move away from saying that this is wrong behavior, I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong, because I don't want them to feel judged. But the thing is that not saying that this is incorrect behavior, it doesn't necessarily, I guess, help the situation, especially when you're moving within a context of larger society. So I think sometimes we as the individual, when we're being corrected, we automatically feel like we're being judged or we have to defend ourselves because we're saying that this behavior is not necessarily, is unacceptable. So do we just move away from not saying what's right or wrong at all? Or is that you as the individual have to learn to accept that what they're saying may not necessarily be a judgment call, but is showing me a different way that I probably need to move?
Yeah. And I guess that's why just hearing everyone talk, I'm so speechless as to, I'm just so speechless as to which way to go, because I'm a person who like to speak on integrity and give certain advice. But as Balance was saying, that you get what are the results in doing that? Or, your morals is not everybody's morals. And I'm just now learning that, like just with family, trying to call them out on certain things, like the pushback that I would get from, telling them the truth. I would, they would tell me, oh, you being judgmental, or oh, that was harsh. So it's just crazy that, when you're speaking the truth, that it could be deemed as you're judging or you're being harsh, or there's a better way of putting it. You know what I mean? And for me, like, I love that hardcore truth. Like, tell me, how it is. But a lot of people are not willing to, take it in how you would. And it's just so hard for me to understand that. So now I'm at a space where I'm aligning myself with like-minded individuals, not saying that I don't have these certain, people who I try to encourage and, speak the truth to. However, I don't focus on those groups of people anymore because it became very draining to a point where I'm like, you know what, I don't even want to deal with, women or men or whomever, because it became so challenging, especially when you're trying to tell them something that's going to benefit them to you, but to them, they don't see that. So it just became a very draining thing for me, but I just wanted to throw that in there.
I agree. Like I don't
agree with balance.
Go ahead, Kelly. Go ahead.
Sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
Driving. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I was saying that I do agree with balance. It's like how she put it was, I think it's the right way to do it. When you do have a moral coding that's a little bit higher than most people's, yes, you do have to. I always go back to the Bible. The Bible says, speak the truth in love. So you can tell them the truth, but you can't beat it over their heads. You can't throw it in their face. You can't slap them in the face with it. There is a proper way to do it. There is a best way to deliver a message. And that comes with learning a person and learning how they communicate. But I also think that you shouldn't withhold it. Like Court said, like she's almost like is deterred from doing it now to people she loves. But I think if you truly care about the people you love, you will tell them. Because with Balance's example, if you have a healthier way to eat, if you have a healthier lifestyle and you can see the benefits of it in your life, why wouldn't you want to share that with people you love? Like, if you know that how they're eating is going to end up with them having diabetes or high blood pressure or dying early from a disease from the food that they were eating, why wouldn't you share that? Yes, there is a best way to do it, but I think if you care about someone, you want to see them do well in life in any and every aspect, you will want to share that news with them, whatever it is. But I think there is a proper way to do it. And to Mistaken's point, how your question was, do people feel judged when they're told they're doing something wrong? I think they do feel judged, but I also think that's okay. If you have a child you're raising, and I know adults aren't your children, but if you care about a people group and you want to see them do better, why wouldn't you give them the proper information? You would do it for a child you're raising. If you see them do stealing and you know eventually, if I never tell them they're wrong, but it's okay, Billy, it's okay, it's fine. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. Eventually, they're going to end up getting arrested and being thrown in prison for stealing because no one ever told them it was wrong. So I think that there is bad behavior that does need to be corrected, but it can be corrected in love. And going back to biblical principles, it does say in the Proverbs that God chastises those that he loves. Like, he will correct you, but he also still loves you. He doesn't say, you're wrong, get away from me. He's like, this was not a good act. This is the correction. This is the discipline for it. And I love you. Come back to me. So I think there is a right way to do it, and it should be shared. If you know the right way and someone else is lost, definitely pass along that information. That's all right.
Does anybody else?
I'm at the point where I'm like, only if they're seeking it. Like, I'm just tired of just giving information out and, I'm the bad person. You know what? Like, if you're seeking the information and you're willing and looking for change, then I'm going to talk to you. Anybody else, I can't give out that energy anymore because I tried it and the results, were negative. So I do agree with you, Kelly, but to a certain extent, because it's not working. Yeah, it is.
Damn, boy. I tell you, the integrity ain't here on this panel. Not one time. I don't hear it at all. Only time I'm going to do it if I feel like it, when I'm up to it, when I got the energy. Now, where was the goddamn integrity at when I was getting verbally assaulted a month ago this time? Wasn't no goddamn integrity kicking in now. I guess y'all ain't got love for Hank. Fuck Hank. Let his ass out the hang. Wasn't no integrity.
Yeah, don't do this thing. Don't do this.
You was egging that girl on. Don't do it. Integrity.
I'm just saying. I said it earlier. I'm gonna say it again. 90% of y'all ain't got no goddamn integrity. Ain't shit changed. It's a fact.
Hey.
Really? Man, I'll say this, man. If I can't be open and honest with you and tell you the truth at the expense of our relationship, we don't have one.
Is part of feeling judged knowing that you did something wrong?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
It is.
I mean, I would feel, if you feel you judged, okay. So I'm thinking, like, they're gonna feel that way because they knew they did something wrong. They just don't feel like dealing with. I think the judgment part of it, or the feeling judged part of it, is having to finally deal with the consequences that you made the wrong decision. You know what I mean? And me personally, I mean, we're human, so we judge. I'm not in a professional space where, I mean, professionally, I don't judge. You know, it's my profession, so I don't bring any judgment there. But in my personal life, I have standards. So along with standards comes, I believe, judgment. Where if you want to be in my circle, there's certain things I can't have. You know what I'm saying? Like we get stopped by the cops. I know I don't use drugs in that capacity. So we get pulled over and you got drug. Nah, I can't deal with you, dog. I don't deal with cats that roll around with drugs in their pocket. You know what I'm saying? That's messing with my life. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna judge. Yo, this guy
But Jay, what if it
drugs
was
on
your
them, fam.
sister? Jay, what if it was your sister and your brother and they were like turning into junkies? Would you not tell them that they were wrong? Like, this is
Absolutely.
wrong. Like, that's what intervention is, right? Family and friends like joining in. Like, this is wrong. It's going to get you hurt. It's going to get you killed. It's going to lead you down a path.
Absolutely. I would
You would
tell
treat
her
it differently with someone that you were close to, right?
Yeah, I mean, there would probably be a different degree of care depending on the person's position in my life. I think it would be, you know, handled a little differently. That's just, I think that's natural instinct. But it still would remain. I can't have that. You know, you can love somebody, they can be your sibling. They can also take your TV up out of your house too. You know what I'm saying? It don't mean that just because y'all came out of the same wound that they won't lift your shit and get them moving. You know what I'm saying?
So when is judging wrong or bad? You know, because I know like a lot of people deem judgment as a bad thing, or that's wrong. So what is an example of, it being done wrongly?
That was
When you're trying
exactly
to be God.
well, no, that was exactly what I was gonna say, because I think we are saying that judgment or judging is wrong. Judging in and of itself isn't wrong. It's when you're judging others, when it becomes the reason that you judging is out of like pride, or to try to belittle somebody else, or to try to make it seem like I'm better than you, because that kind of judgment absolutely is wrong. But when you're making judgment in order of a correction, and it's done out of love, kind of like what Balancing was saying, like here's some other avenues in which you can take if you want different results, because the purpose of the judgment is really to build the person, to build the character, to have them see things differently so they can move in a more positive way, then that type of judgment is not wrong. You have to be able to state, this is wrong, this is why it's wrong, and this is something that you can do to substitute that specific behavior to get the, more positive results. That kind of judgment is not wrong. But I think when we hear judgment, it's always used in a negative light. So everybody begins to think that judgment is wrong, and it's not.
All right, y'all. Let me go ahead and finish combing through. We got a few more sound bites to get through. I'm going to play the next with the like button. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let me go ahead and get this super chat in real quick. Marcus Adams $5 says, so mistaken, should we bring back shaming? And I think we spoke on that already. I did highlight this one, but he said, where would they get that, knowing basically where you get the information from? And I think Hink was kind of speaking on that. If you don't have any Bible to refer back to, where do you get good character from? How do you know how to obtain? How do you know what it looks like?
Then I would pick up the Bible.
Yeah, but you talking about somebody who may be a non-believer,
there are
though.
lots of books.
Yeah, that's not everybody's go-to.
There are lots of
there
are lots of books. People always wonder where to find this from. There are lots of books. There are like seminars that you can go to. If there's something you want to learn, you seek it out. You will find it if you actually care to learn it.
Just Kelly.
There
Well,
are books on character and integrity that aren't the Bible. What'd you say? I tell you something.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think she has
Yeah, I
a
can hear you now. I'm
delay
sorry.
because she's speaking through the Bluetooth, so it's going to be a delay.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, speaking of the Bible tells us to set an example for others in our conduct, right? That's in 1 Timothy 4. So in your conduct, yes, right? Yes. So that means lead by example. A lot of people, they talk, but they don't live it. That's why nobody's listening to them, including their own children. Exactly. They don't listen to you because you don't live it. They think you're a fraud because you are telling them to do something you don't live by. And that's where we need to start. And I say this all the time. Start with you. It starts with you. Lead by example. Any biblical book will tell you that. It makes moral sense. You can't tell somebody to do something that you are not justified in because you yourself didn't do it. They're going to think you're crazy, especially a child whose brain is still developing. They don't even understand things. You're like, but mommy's telling me to do this, but she ain't live her life like that at all. Like, why am I going to listen to her? That sounds crazy. Just think about it from a child's mentality, right? Like, why would I want to listen to my mom when she doesn't have the results? She didn't do it herself. Why am I listening to her? And I'm just I'm speaking from a point of a coach, right? Because I've actually spoken to a lot of people, especially a lot of young girls. And these are the conversations they give me. It's not something I just feel within. That's what they say to me. And it makes sense. Everybody wants to tell people what to do that they didn't do. They're not going to listen to you. So that's why I speak more from I'm not trying to be right. I'm trying to get the results.
Hold tight, y'all. Let me go ahead and slide this soundbite in there, and then we can continue the conversation. I just want to make sure I get through these.
Is sacrifice for principles. So character means you are willing to sacrifice friendship to protect your principles. You are willing to lose your best friend in order to keep your principles. Do you have character? Who are you with right now that you shouldn't be with? Think about it. What are you doing right now in secret that you shouldn't be doing? Are you willing to sacrifice that to protect your principles? Somebody offer to pay your mortgage off if you just sleep with them once. Would you sacrifice to protect your principles? Character.
If you guys are wondering who that is Miles Monroe. I will be dropping a link to this particular reference in the description after, but let's go ahead and continue this conversation of integrity. Let me get some of the folks that haven't been speaking that would like to hop in. I think everybody's been really speaking though. So whoever wants to chime in, and we got a couple more sound bites, but I want to make sure we keep it going. Hit the like button. Also make sure you subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody that's supporting the platform. Let's go.
I just wanted to go back and address the question about the shaming. So I had saw that question early on and just like wrote my thoughts down just so I wouldn't forget. But so what I think shaming does, it ridicules somebody. And when you're being ridiculed, it'll lead to internalized negative beliefs about yourself. And then as a result of that, typically when you're thinking negative about yourself, it doesn't necessarily always lead to a positive change in behavior. More likely than not, it'll lead to more negative behavior. It may not necessarily be the same behavior, but it can lead to more negative behavior because now you have this negative internalized belief about who you are because you've been shamed. So I think the better way is to talk to somebody to try to get them to have a conviction. So I think shaming is different from being convicted of something. So when you're convicted of something, it's like someone is convincing you of the truth. And so because of that truth, you're able to see why your behavior needs to be changed. So you're not blaming the person, but you're focused more on the behavior. And that person can be convicted of that behavior because they want different results. And so then they are more able to be in a mind space of not to look at themselves negatively, but look at the behavior as negatively and change the behavior. So that's why I think shaming is not necessarily a positive thing, because shaming equals negative, it can lead to negative self-beliefs. That's all. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's the way that I distinguish shaming somebody and, convicting somebody.
Balance. I think I'm gonna have to book a session. I need to be taught on how to communicate effectively because that's what I'm lacking right now. It's
Well,
like, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, because I don't know how to read the room. Like I just say it straight up. You know what I mean? So I need help with trying to read the room and be able to get the message across without them feeling like they're being, judged or shamed or condemned, all of that. So I think I need help with that.
Come through, girl. I had to learn it myself. So I'm just speaking from experience.
Well, this is what I don't understand. Talking about shaming is a problem. Anytime you correct your kids, you're shaming. Yes, you are. Because when you tell your kids what you did wrong, that's a form of shame. So y'all don't tell the kids the reason why I'm punishing you is because you went outside and I told you not to go outside.
Just teaching, correcting.
It's the same.
No. Let me tell Hank. This is my opinion, real quick, Hank. I think shaming would be cutting your kid's hair bald because he did something wrong, or making him wear a dress, or something crazy like that. This like you did something wrong and now I'm gonna shame you in front of your friends. You're gonna have to do this thing or wear something that shows them you did something wrong. I think there's a difference. I think what you're explaining,
embarrassment.
Yeah, I think what you're explaining is general correction. You know what I mean? They're not a
But Jay, that's still a form of shaming. Now it's different aspect to it. It's a different. Now you might be going to the extreme when you talk about cutting their hair or making them wear a dress. You still making a child feel bad about what the mistakes he done, about the consequence he has for what he done wrong. You're still doing. That's a form of shaming. It's just in a different way. It's not to the extreme.
Let me say this to you, Hank, because shaming is.
I believe that shaming is attaching the person to. Hello? Sorry,
we can hear you.
Talking over.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, you guys gotta understand she on the Bluetooth, so it's a slight delay. So if she overtalk you, I don't think it's intentional.
I apologize. I'm getting off in just a second. I was saying that I think that shaming attaches a person to the action versus like, this is what you did wrong. Let's correct the bad behavior. Not saying you are the bad person. I think that's the difference. It makes them live with their sin and in their sin. Like, okay, you're a baby's mama, so you're a bad person. Not you had sex outside of marriage and you fornicated and a child came from that. Don't do this again. Correct this behavior. Don't let it happen again. It's like you are now shamed forever. You wore the scarlet letter. You're a bad person. It doesn't give them a feeling of being able to be redeemed from whatever they did wrong.
I was gonna say too, Hank, when you shame somebody, it's a form of humiliation. That's the definition of shame, is to humiliate somebody. That's very different from correction. My mother, she corrected me. She never humiliated me, but she corrected me. Sometimes she would sit and talk to me for like 2 hours straight. Like that was that's how she corrected me. So
and it was usually done in private, right? Balance?
Yeah, always in private. Like, and the Bible tells us to also correct your friend in private as well. So yeah.
Whether it's done in private or in public, it's still shaming to me. Okay, I understand what y'all saying. Y'all, if I correct you, I'm gonna leave it alone.
No, let me ask you a question. I'm curious.
I'm leaving it alone. Maybe I'm just not understanding what y'all the extreme shaming y'all talking about to the light smack on the hand type shaming I'm talking about. So I'm gonna rest in my masculinity. I'm gonna learn.
Okay.
I also think that shaming, the purpose of it, shaming seeks to control by diminishing the person, right? So when you're correcting your child, you're not seeking to diminish them, right? Your goal is to correct the behavior so they can be better, or not get in trouble.
Yeah, bring about understanding.
Right. And bring about understanding. When you're shaming, that's not your intent. Your intent is to control them by diminishing them as a person. And that's the difference. I can understand, like you say, oh, well, the results are the same. You're doing the same thing because you're telling them the truth about the behavior, but it is the intentionality behind it. So when you're shaming, the purpose is to ridicule and make the person feel bad. When you're correct, and that's intentional from you to that person. Whereas when you are correcting, can a person feel bad? Yes, but it's that them feeling bad is kind of like what I was saying. It's you because the behavior was wrong, and then you're convicted like, man, I shouldn't have done that, because you may have the idea that what you did was already wrong. So I think shaming is you as the person trying to control the other person and make them feel bad, whereas correcting them, it's more of, the whole opposite. Your intent is to help them do better.
Yeah, but how do you know? So what's somebody's
people
intent?
Can feel it when you're doing it out of love.
How do you know what somebody's intent is? So you don't always know somebody's intentions. Okay. I might be teaching you this because for bad reasons, because I want to see you.
Social media. There was a kid on social media where the mom made him dress up like a clown to go to school because he did something, he got in trouble for something, and she forced him. He's crying and everything, and she was like, "You have to go to school like this." She put like a hat on him, painted his face like a clown, and she forced him to go to school like that. That's shame. That's not correction. That's embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. To Hink's point, I just think you just have to, and I always kind of equate it back off my experience. So what I have to understand working at union job, Jay, was that as men, I thought that we just approach men and we have a conversation, you have a disagreement. I didn't know that if you approach somebody that they can get offended even as a man and then try to get you fired based off a conversation, a manly conversation. So I had to understand, I had to learn the hard way that you have to be sensitive even to men within the workspace, because you never know. You would think as much as they talk, you would think that they would be that person, but they really can't handle the heat when it comes to them. It's just, but I think we have to understand that people receive information differently. Unfortunately, that's just the world that we live in. And sometimes you may get someone that get hurt feelings. Even men get their feelings hurt from other men, apparently. And that's just based off my experience. It was like my first real job. I'm like, damn, this is how men operate. Like you can't have a conversation with somebody without somebody trying to get you fired. I just never understood that. But
so soft, man. Like I said it earlier before. I mean, we've gotten so soft as a society that even a conversation at lunch, like, hey man, let me take you to lunch. What are you having? And you sit down, like, hey, the thing that you said the other day, man, like, look, man, I think that was a little bit out of line. I wish you kind of approached it this way. Could you please give me a heads up or whatever? Even that in itself will land you in HR, So we really have gotten away from those basic sort of, what I say is kind of like simple principle conversation, like even amongst men. Like there are a lot of people who will take any and every opportunity to kind of derail whatever greatness you have, just because they're unable to take constructive criticism about their inadequacies and how they handle and address certain people, especially in the workplace.
Okay. Yeah, and to keep that in mind, like you can talk however you want to talk, but just understanding how this world works is that some people are sensitive and some people may go overboard and go extreme based off how they receive the information. So you have to understand who you're talking to. You could be direct. I'm all for it. It works for some people. It works for me, because I often reflect on the conversation and understand where it's coming from. Sometimes you need to be told, hey, you lack integrity. I was told that at one point in time, you lack integrity, and it was received, but you may tell somebody else that and they may take it personal. So understanding your personnel, you can't change and save everyone from themselves. But if you want to reach somebody you care about, I think you do have to pay attention, even within a marriage or relationship. Sometimes you have to, it's not altering the message, but you got to understand who you're dealing with. If you have an overly emotional woman and you know she gets sensitive, sometimes you can be direct, and sometimes if you want her to receive it or you need her to operate for you, then you might have to tell her a different way. Like your delivery may be off. So
I'm not gonna lie, my husband did not do that for me, and I respected him the most for not altering, being stern. And so I don't know. For me,
I'm not saying altering like the message, but I do think I can't really describe it. Like when you're in that moment, sometimes you know what it is. Sometimes you may not feel like dealing with it, right? Like sometimes you may really need to get something done to execute, and you ain't really got time. So you may come back and say, "Hey, the next time when this happens, this is what I need you to do." And so you're still being stern, but you have to understand what's going on in the moment. It's almost like reading the room. You have to read the people. So I don't think that you less of a man or like you're not leading your household if you understand the situation that's at hand. If somebody comes in and they have a gun, so to speak, right, and they're about to air out the room or something like that, you peep it. Your message may be a little bit different. Like, hey, I need you to take the kids and go over there. It's like you're peeping. What? Just don't question me. Just go over there. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want them to get all but it's like you understand the situation. You may be about to close a deal. Maybe you have some corporate event or something like that, and you see a potential investor, and you may need her to operate a certain way. Just reading the room is very important. Reading the people is very important. That's how you get stuff done. People do it all the time. Because I understand that humans have these small minds, and sometimes you can give somebody some instruction. If you know that your woman is very emotional, then you might not want to address it in that way. Now, behind closed doors is a different story. If it's just one-on-one or something like that, then you could be like that. But understand too that it just, I hope I'm making sense, man. I feel like I'm rambling right now.
No, you're making sense.
But I do think it's not you altering who you are as a man or altering your message. I just think that managers do it all the time. Like you can't manage everybody the same way. Even on these panels, I understand my personnel. I understand what I'm dealing with. I understand this person gonna talk forever. I understand this person not gonna talk. It's just like I understand these people get bored if this person talks all day. So it's just really, I'm not altering the show. I'm just understanding my personnel. So I may not bring certain people on the show because I'm looking to push out a message that's going to get heard this way. So it's just really just reading the room, man. It's
I learned something new.
You make sense, JR. I like where you talk up.
Yeah. Sometimes I be all over the place. My mind just be thinking like crazy. But let me go ahead and finish combing through. Does anybody else want to add something while I queue up this next video? No. Y'all can't leave me hanging like that. Somebody had to speak.
You said
y'all gotta learn how to read the room, man. I'm not sure if this is the one I just played.
Nah, I think the one
or not. So when I say I need somebody else to chime in, that's when y'all supposed to read the room and be like, okay, he needs some assist, he needs some help.
So the one that you have played
like y'all lack integrity.
Was not compromising your integrity.
90% of those, JR.
You chop the meat up a little more. We got it. You landed the plane, man. For some people, you got to chop the meat up in smaller pieces.
That's very true. Some people still drinking milk, and that's okay too.
All right, I'm ready now, y'all. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Shout out to the sponsor, Teej. I don't think I shouted out Teej in the beginning. Make sure you guys feel the Teej. Somebody asked if the Teej really works. Yes, it really does work. I can say that the wash in particular, what I noticed, because I used to use what is it, like Neutrogena? What is it called?
Neutrogena.
Yeah. If you have oily skin, that Teej wash does dry it out differently than using that product. So that's something that I can't honestly say. The scrub smells pretty good. Just the little crystal balls in there. Open up the pores. It's a great system for men, man. I know a lot of men don't care particularly about their skin, but it's not bad. I'm not just saying that because they're the sponsor. I actually use the product. I got tons and tons of it, and it's just I use it. I encourage everybody to do. I actually give away stuff. My son uses it, and women can use it too. Women can use it. I got the I got that
like
balls. I
for
got
all
the balls
skin types?
powder. I got the balls powder too for the men. It actually feels pretty cool when you put it on pause, but um, just that time. It's springtime. You know, you've been sitting in the chair for a long time, or you out there hopping and bopping, walking through the zoo, whatever it is you do in your life. That balls powder does work. So hygiene is very important. Even when you sweat, you still want to be able to still smell good. You don't want to sweat and then you just went from smelling fat to just like, what the hell? I'm gonna keep going. I'm starting to ramble again. I can tell I'm losing the pound on y'all. Like, where is he going with this? What is he gonna say next? I don't know, but let me go in and comb through this. Here's the next sound bite.
Last one. Character is simply integrity. Now look at integrity and look at integrate. They're the same word. Integrity means you are one with yourself. That means your word is always good. You say what you said, you do what you said, and then you act what you said. That's holiness. So wearing a long dress or a white collar with a purple shirt turned backward with a big chain in your pocket is not holiness.